I'm sure you're wondering why, despite the truckload of information and content you consume, you seem not to be making progress. It's either of these two reasons, and for some of you, it might even be both. You see, early in my career, I was a very average kid. I knew nothing about personal development. So when I got this idea of personal development, it sold me the idea that Rolls Royce were not built for entertainers and athletes, that I too could get one. So the whole reason of joining towards the path of personal development at first was not because of vision, it was towards the journey that my priorities changed. So within the first year of assuming this information, I began to share it with my buddies at home, my brothers, and within 2 years of application of all of these truths I was sharing, everybody began to make progress. Everybody began to make progress except me. I remember in one meeting, I and my friends, we gathered up, and every single one of them who took my advice were on the latest iPhones. Back in the day, that was what we used as parameters to measure success. So if you were on the latest iPhone, you were deemed successful. I left that meeting angry. I left that hangout furious. I went to my home. I went back to my hotel room and I said, something has to change. How are these people who I gave advice, we started in the same place, and now they're making all of this progress, and the only thing I have to show after 2 years of personal development is a stolen book which I assumed from the library? So I asked myself this question: if I could astral project and give myself advice, which is something I seem to be good at, if I could give myself one advice, what would it be? I looked at my situation objectively and I answered honestly. If I was to advise you, my friend, you are not valuable. You are not valuable, which leads us to the first point. Majority of you are not valuable. The whole point of value is mostly to make financial progress. So if that's the case, I believe majority of people want to add value to the society, genuinely to make the world a better place. But I believe for 90% of people who are ruthless capitalists also want to add value to society solely for financial progress. So if that's the case, let's attack it from that angle. What is money? Majority of you say, I want to make money. That is absolutely and utterly incorrect. You do not make money. The only people who make money work in the Federal Reserve or the Mint. Those people are allowed to print money. You can only take money. Every single dollar in your account, every single naira in your account is money you took from someone else. It doesn't necessarily have to be illegal or by force. You took it legally or you convinced them somehow to give you that money. So every single dollar in your account is what you took from someone else. You have to become very good at taking it. This is something majority of you don't understand. You want to become valuable, but you do not know as to why, which is what I'm sharing to you. So you have to get very good at taking money. What is value? If you've gotten to this point of the video, I'm sure you're saying, well, I don't have any value. I do not remember myself learning any specific skill to compound my value. Well, that's a very outdated idea, because in this day and age, you don't have to learn a skill to become valuable or to make it your value. Of course, there are scenarios where you have to get extra training in order to compound your value or to become more valuable to the marketplace. But I guarantee you, each and every one of you are valuable. Each and every one of you is perfect at something. And you know the problem with value is very difficult to identify it. It takes someone external or you as an individual to be very discerning to find out what your value is. This is the same case we see in the Bible. Remember the woman, the wife of the prophet, who the debtors were about to take her two sons. When she met the prophet Elijah, he asked her a simple question: what do you have in your house? She said nothing except a jar of oil. That jar of oil in which she trivialized ended up paying the debt and making her live up the rest. So that jar of oil, that value you despise or trivialize, nothing except making hair. Don't royalties make hair? Don't I get a haircut? Why can't you be the person doing my own haircut? So every single one of you is valuable. You have just not identified it, refined it, and deployed it. So even PUBG streamers, I want to tell you, you can monetize your habit. Learn how to monetize your habit. You take all these streamers for example. It's not necessarily because they are playing these games or they are very good at what they do, but because they have identified their value and they are serving it to a targeted consumer base. That is value. Value is what you can do, in exchange for the other man's money. Identify your value, which is one thing, which leads us to the second point: productivity. Productivity is very different from value, and productivity doesn't mean hard work necessarily. It is often said that if finances were measured solely on hard work, the construction workers would be the richest. It is absolutely and utterly true. You and I are not working as hard as the guy at the corner of the grocery store. Yes, we are richer than him. Why is that? Because finances is not directly in proportion to the amount of hard work you do. Finances is directly in proportion to the kind of problem you solve. You'll be paid in proportion to the level and the difficulty of the problem you solve in society. That's how value, or that's how money interchanges hands. So to be productive as an individual is identifying your value, refining it up onto the point it can be served to a targeted consumer base. I made a remark earlier. I said, don't royalties make their hair? It's a very good question, but they have standards. They don't just make their hair anywhere else. They don't just let any kind of person cut their hair because you're royalty. So if you want to get to the palace, you have to mesh productivity to your value. Nothing can be rewarded because nothing is rewarded in its raw state. Nothing is going to be rewarded in its raw state. Just because you're valuable, I commend you. You're a talented comedian. You've made some funny jokes amongst your friends. You've used your gift to serve people. But if you don't join productivity to that gift, you'll be stunted at the position. You will wonder why you are valuable. You wonder why you have this gifting and yet you're not receiving the proportional financial reward to this value. Nothing is going to be rewarded in its crude state. Ask my people in the petrochemical industry. Crude, it's black, it is sticky, and it is smelling. It's a very unpleasant smell. The exact opposite of the features of water. Yet that is what people will chew in the gas station and say thank you for paying, just because it has been refined and served to a targeted consumer base. I have a very unique perspective and different insight as to various topics. The only reason we are enjoying this truth now is because it's communicated effectively, laced with all shades of analogy that insist you understand and grow from what I'm saying. So identify your gifting, identify your value, and mesh productivity with it. Back to our analogy on PUBG streamers. PUBG streamers, for instance, there are so many PUBG streamers, but what distinguishes one from the other? Perhaps one of them, say, take two PUBG streamers. One, the guy on the left is better than the guy on the right. And the guy on the left, when recording, just records his gameplay, use the inbuilt speaker as microphone, no touchpad, no controls, very low quality image, but it's better than the guy on the right. Remember, The guy on the right is an average person, but he takes into account his camera quality, his thumbnails, he gets everything in check, he uses audio visuals, he makes commentary. Who do you think will be successful in the long run? Exactly. So having value alone is not enough. You have to mesh it with productivity. I'm sure some of you would buy these expensive watches, especially Hublot. Once you buy Hublot, you unbox it, it's inside another box, and the packaging is so amazing that the packaging itself it's more seems to be more valuable than the watch. That's why majority of you do not throw your packaging away because it's so nicely fitted that it will be betrayal to throw that thing into the trash can. This is something Steve Jobs perfected at Apple. Majority called him a maniac, but some of you still have your Apple, your MacBook packaging as far as from 2018, dating back to 2018, you still have your packaging. Why is that? Because the branding is awesome, right on spot. I'm sure majority of you might not relate, but some of you we've all gotten expensive perfumes at some point in our life. Those expensive perfumes are inside another box, inside another box. Finally, you open the last box, you see the perfume in some crest, in some perfectly carved crest, laying neatly. You pick it up and it seems to be a betrayal to give the trash bin such neatly packaged item. So packaging and branding is very important when you're talking about value. This is something believers fail to understand, and unbelievers have capitalized on that folly and they're making millions of dollars. You've been confessing the wealth of the righteous is for the wealth of the wicked is for the righteous. They have that confession landed you too. Exactly. So learn the rules of the jungle. The Bible says it. Behold, I have sent you like sheep unto wolves. If you don't understand the laws of the jungle, you're going to get eaten. So stop trying to redefine your own possibilities when there are already alternatives for you to outsource. It's like trying to devise devise a new method to build a car from scratch when there are other leverages, there are other people who have done the exact same thing you are trying to do, which you can leverage on their material. If it's innovation you're looking for, you build upon that which they have already developed. Because building a car from scratch is no longer seen as innovation. You're only satisfying your ego and reinforcing your psychological ego. It doesn't benefit anybody, it doesn't benefit society, just you. And I remind you again, you're paid in proportion to the difficulty of problems you solve. So joint value with productivity. If you look at that, back to our story of the wife of the prophet. When Elijah asked her that question, what do you have in your house? She said nothing except a jar of oil. He gave a recommendation which I give you guys. He said go and borrow vessels. Borrow not a few. Enlarge your capacity. What happened when she borrowed vessels and shut the door behind you and begin to empty the oil? And when there was no more vessel, the oil stopped flowing. So you will only expand to the degree to the degree you give room for expansion. As long as your value is still shifted within a small jar, that is the only that is the shape it's going to assume. So if you do not enlarge yourself, if you do not borrow vessels, how do you borrow vessels? By borrowing materials, listening to people who have gone ahead of you, learning the ways of the kingdom, learning the mysteries and the laws of the universe. Do not expect something to happen by luck. Nothing good happens by accident. You have to cultivate it. This world is cohabitated to promote darkness than good. If you leave your farmland unattended to, guess what sprouts? Weed. Why doesn't fine lilies and fine goats sprout after a long time of not cultivating the farmland? Exactly. So if you see a well manicured garden, how many times have you walked up to the security or whoever is in charge and said, "Who did this?" And said, "Oops, it just happened by accident. The garden trimmed itself and raked the remains all by itself." It doesn't happen. So for anything good in your life has to be cultivated with intention. Mesh value with productivity and you'll be fine. Now I want you to rewatch this video over and over again. I'm giving you this instruction or exercise not necessarily because of what you call this thing to gain more followers or likes. No, while I share a point that strikes you, your mind wanders up, constantly juxtaposing between this new philosophy and your current life. Perhaps this sentence I just made is relevant to your current situation. Perhaps what I'm saying is the current phase you are in your life, and you're currently comparing this new information with the happenings around your life, trying to interpret the circumstances and what's going on in your life. During that space and time of comparison, I'm also speaking and making other points that might stimulate your mind and cause you to wonder. So while we're watching this video, you come across that point. It's highly improbable for you to ponder on the same point. So you're not the chances of you pondering on the same point you pondered is in the single digits. You're also going to meet points. You're also going to come across points that you didn't ponder at. So find those points. Make sure that all grounds are covered before you leave this video. So the word, share to that person who needs this information. Share to that your body. Share to that person you believe that you're going to get through it together. As always, my friend, it's a pleasure speaking to you. I'll see you in the next one.